This podcast is part of the C-Suite Radio Network, turning the volume up on business.
Welcome to the Business Power Hour, hosted by Deb Creer. Join us as Deb talks with her guests, experts in their fields, as they share real-life stories and techniques to power up your business.
Good morning, good morning. I am Deb Creer, and I am passionate about giving professionals the tools that they need to make themselves and their businesses as successful as possible. And today we're going to be talking about the biggest business that there is. And that's that little bitty company called Amazon. And more importantly, how you, dear listeners, dear viewers, every single one of you could be selling products on Amazon, and which is a really cool and scary concept to even think about, because it's like, oh my God, how could I be an Amazon person? We all know, or many of us know, that we could be Amazon affiliates. I'm an Amazon affiliate when I promote the books that our guests have. If I am an affiliate, I get a little percentage anytime somebody buys one of the books using my link. That's pretty easy to do, but how on earth do you actually sell products on Amazon? And so please join me in welcoming our guest today, Dan Meadors, who is going to talk to us about how to do that. So welcome, Dan.
Hey, thanks for having me on the show, Deb. I look forward to this one.
It's going to be so much fun, because this really is a subject that is so interesting to me. I am one of those people that, you could make memes about me. There's always usually an Amazon box on my front porch waiting for an Amazon delivery today. But then of course there is that, how on earth did people get their stuff there thought process. So before we go, let me tell people just a little bit about you. So Dan Meadors started out working a regular day job in a small town in Kentucky. In 2011, he began selling on Amazon with only $600 and grew it into a multi-million-dollar business in just a few short years. Today, he owns a business that has sold over 500,000 products on Amazon, done well over $20 million in sales, has generated millions in profit. And get this, folks, he only works 1 hour per week due to the unique business model he created that allows him to almost completely automate the entire business. Dan now uses his freedom to teach people all over the world his exclusive business model through his elite online training program known as the Wholesale Formula. So again, Dan, welcome.
Hey, again, thanks for having me on. I really do look forward to sharing this.
And as I was reading up, looking at your websites and things like that, of course, one of the biggest things for you was to be able to spend time with your family. And I think that's so true of many people. They realize, there is no such thing as the work-life balance. We need to just stop using that term, because there's not. You're either working or you're maybe trying to squish in having a life. And it doesn't matter if you own your own business or if you work for someone else. It is very difficult to have that balance and to be able to, you want to spend time with your kids, with your spouse, doing things that are fun, let's be honest, or if you're a little bit more mature, you might have grandkids you're wanting to spend time with, or you're wanting to travel, and so that's what I liked about your model, is the fact that it can take as little or as many hours as you really want to put into it. But the cool thing is, if you get it going right, it takes fewer hours. As I mentioned in your bio, you spend a week doing this and you still are extremely successul at it.
Oh, for sure. No, but it wasn't always that way.
Right,
It's
and this is not an overnight success thing.
No, by no means. But no, that's the beauty of this business model specifically, is it's very, very process oriented. Mm-hmm. And that means you can either outsource and or automate in a lot of fashions to be able to kind of engineer the job engineer the job or business that you want. And the biggest thing for me is it's kind of funny, like how I've evolved over the years in terms of my mindset towards business. Originally, I was like, I want to have a gigantic business that does hundreds of millions of dollars in sales, and that was kind of like the trajectory and path we were on for a minute. And then it really did. It just kind of hit me that the special thing isn't isn't the money that a business provides, it's the freedom that the
Right.
business provides. And my little girls, I wanted to be able to find a way to be able to spend more time with them, and that's what this model has given me. It's given me a way to kind of just be able to live life on my terms, relatively speaking.
Right. And of course, the cool thing about Amazon is it is set up to allow people to do this. I don't know if that was originally their intent was obviously books. We're going to sell books. We're going to sell books out of a garage. If I love the commercials now that are showing, these businesses started in somebody's garage, and Amazon was one of those.
Yep.
And then they slowly expanded, and then they hit on the secret sauce. And that's the third party vendors, which is what you are. You're not an employee of Amazon. You're not selling Amazon products. You're selling through Amazon. And so that is the cool part.
No, I mean, that was the game changer is Amazon developed the marketplace.
Right.
And, I think there's multiple different or a couple different perceptions about, Amazon. I have the thought of being an Amazon seller, right? Like it's either, I'm just it's little old me, I can't compete. That's one thought.
Right.
Because
they have billions of products.
Right. But that the depth of their marketplace just allows it. Like, whenever we got started, and we know a lot of people like us that had that similar situation that got started with $500 with, the books they had on their shelf. And it just kind of made a run at it. And then you have the other perception of, it's kind of just a lot of people would see it maybe as a small side hustle. And, it can far eclipse that as well. That's the beauty of that Amazon's created with their FBA system. It lets me access their scale and use it as I need it, because they're not trying to, and they don't charge me more for using it less. That's the beauty. Right. Is it's scaled to provide value to their customer, not necessarily to the seller, but it just happens to make it so easy for the seller to be able to work through their system. But no, I mean, there are Amazon third-party sellers and third-party vendors at multiple that do north of $100 million per year. So, I mean, it can be a massive business. And, it's kind of funny. We've worked with a lot of entrepreneurs, and we've kind of seen that entire spectrum, right? Like I've seen 70-year-old people who just wanted to make an extra $5,000 a month, and they didn't scale it, to any level outside of just themselves.
Right.
And then I've seen people like that have come through with us and have grown multiple 7 and 8 figure businesses because that, Amazon has afforded them that opportunity.
Right.
So you're exactly right. I mean, Amazon, the third party system was the game changer. If you look at what it did to e-commerce in general, before this, like Amazon had to leverage their cash flow. They had to manage, they had to manage their outstanding balances. Right. And it was a nightmare.
Standard business.
Right. Just like a normal business. But where they hit that cheat button is whenever they started letting third party sellers sell the products, they don't have to carry those cost of goods.
Right. They're just
like it just freed up so much cash flow. And I think that's a lot of what helped them accelerate past people in that model. And, a lot of people don't know this, but it was kind of funny. In Amazon's quarterly report, they were talking about that, I think it was 55% of sales are now take place from third party vendors. It's, Amazon's not even the biggest seller, they're the biggest seller on the platform, but they're not, they don't outperform the third party sellers anymore.
Right.
And that's a big deal. And then if you look at it from the perspective of that, Amazon, it's much more profitable for them to let third party sellers sell their products than for Amazon to sell themselves. Like if Amazon has to compete, price wise to be able to make their products comparable with Walmart, I almost said Kmart, and they're not even a thing. Target. I don't think anybody's competing with Kmart.
Didn't follow the trend.
Exactly. But they have to make their prices competitive, and that generally results in 1 to 3% margins for them. Whereas if I sell a product, their typical cut is 15% depending on the category. So it's much more advantageous for them to just let me sell their products. And I think that's been a big part of why the marketplace has grown as much as it has. Is Amazon's very incentivized to continue to push growth for third-party sellers, because it effectively allows them to expand their entire marketplace without having to invest into the physical products that they're selling.
Right. And it's interesting. I was telling you before the program started, I have another guest who we're talking about Amazon with them also, but from a different perspective. And it's how Amazon does business and how they're so successful. And one of the things that I found fascinating with that is the fact that Amazon has very high standards for the third-party sellers, because it's their reputation. I mean, a good portion of people probably have absolutely no idea that they're not buying from Amazon.
Sure.
And so they don't want vendors who are consistently getting poor ratings, not fulfilling things, not shipping on time, all of those various things. And, and so they're going to maintain that good reputation by making sure that their third-party sellers maintain those good reputations also.
Sure, and a lot of those problems are definitely solved through their FBA system, and that was the real big evolution.
So what is FBA?
So FBA is a term that means fulfillment by Amazon.
Okay.
And what that means is third-party vendors are allowed to send their products to Amazon's fulfillment centers, where Amazon employees will store the products, pull, pack, and ship orders, and then provide customer service afterwards. Right. So what it does is it really streamlines our ability to grow. Like, if we would have had to ship our own orders, like before I started this business, in college, I had ran an eBay store, and it was actually pretty successful. I mean, it did probably did a couple $100,000 a year in sales. And the problem is it was just an absolute nightmare packing, shipping orders, answering customer messages. Right. And, as a one-man operation, I just couldn't scale past that. Right. Right. And then
and just keeping the inventory, which I'm sure a lot of people are thinking, so I would get this product, I'd have it all in my basement. Sure. I'd have to pack. Do I get Amazon boxes? I mean, no, Amazon does all that for you.
Right. So, the way our business works now is we work directly with manufacturers. And they'll either ship the product, directly with manufacturers and brands, and they ship the products either to Amazon directly or to a third-party prep center that prepares our products and, make sure they're not going to get damaged in shipment to or from Amazon. And then they ship it directly to Amazon. So like the products that we carry now, we actually donate, we've not received them in over a year and a half. I've not seen one. So it has been an interesting change of pace, but that FBA model, like the fact that, when they started incorporating that into their system is really what brought a lot of sellers to the platform, because now they don't have to, you don't have to create all this scale. You don't have to buy all this equipment to ship all these orders. You don't have to hire employees. You don't have to have that big warehouse or whatever. We have just a downtown office and run a multiple $1 million Amazon business out of it. Like, you would never assume that we're a physical product business. But that's what FBA did, is it let your average person compete like a giant store. Right. And that was whenever we found Amazon, or like whenever I found Amazon, like Amazon obviously existed, but I didn't even know you could sell on there.
Right. And yeah. We all assume it's Amazon who's selling. Right.
So I didn't even know you could sell in there until 2011. Like, and that's when I got started, and I found out, and I was like, wow, this is pretty cool. And my buddy was telling me about it, and I was like, that's, eBay sucked for me. Like, I hated shipping all the orders, and I don't have time. Like,
right. And then dealing with returns and,
right. And he was like, but you don't even have to do that, man. You just ship everything to Amazon and they do it for you. And I was like, what? And so that piqued our interest, and we started researching it more, and didn't really get started for a while, but it was, I think we ended up getting started in maybe July of 2011. And that was, through retail arbitrage. And it was kind of funny because the same guy that told us about it, like in July, he came into the office and he was like, hey man, it's like, I was just going to let you know, I was turning in my notice. And this guy had like a 6-figure job in Corbin, Kentucky, which is, there's not a lot of those.
No.
And I was like, so what are you doing? He was like, the Amazon stuff I showed you, man, I make more money doing that. And I'm just going to sit at home and do that. And then just, I don't enjoy coming to work necessarily.
Right.
So, and I was like, wow, this is super awesome, man. And so he showed us a lot. He kind of took us out for a little field trip and showed us exactly what he was doing. And it made me so excited to see it in action that, like, me and at the time, me and my business partner, Eric, I was talking to him and I was like, we got to try this just to see if we can even sell an item.
Right.
So like that night we went out and we found like a product perfect in the parameters. And I even remember what it was. It was Disney cars, little Disney cars thing. And it was, I think they were at the time, $2.87 at Walmart. And there were like 15 or 20 of this one guy, and his name was Shu Todoroki. And we bought them all, like all 15 or 20. And I was like, there's literally no way this is going to sell like in any reasonable amount of time, because we, like, when we scanned the product, it said it was selling for like either $15 or $16.
Whoa.
And I was like, yeah, like these people aren't walking it, they're not paying $16 really. But so we went home, we shipped in our first little shipment of Shu Todorokis, and the day it got received, like, it was just like sell. And we sold out in hours.
Ooh.
And I was like, whoa. Like, just imagine that. I mean, just imagine going into a Walmart and spending $50 and it turning in, after fees and stuff, like it was probably 200 or 220 bucks. And it literally just blew our mind that not only did we not have to work a whole lot in this process as far as like getting the products there and packing individual orders and that kind of craziness, but more importantly that they had the customer base to literally sell a product for 5x what you could buy it in a Walmart for in a matter of hours. And like, we went crazy. Like, we just went around all the time. We'd get off work, we would go shopping, we would at weekend we would go shopping, like, and even with that little $600 credit card, just maxing it out, shipping all the product in. And then, like, we had a debit card because we were getting more cash than we could pay on our credit card. So we were running both of them. We'd max out our little credit card and tap our debit card account and just go out and spend money and just buy all these little products and send them into Amazon. And within, it was about December, and it's kind of interesting. It was, looking back, I guess it was really fortunate. But in December alone, we did $50,000 in sales.
Wow.
And it was, which was super, super awesome. But like, it was like probably, it made me confident. It made me confident that it was sustainable. And it came at a time like I actually needed it. That was, I got fired from my job in December. Like, it was just a few days before Christmas too. And I just had, like, it was a nightmare. Like, I just had my daughter, she was a year old, and we had just put, like, I had a great job for what it's worth. Like, I made a pretty substantial salary, but I was always one of the people, like, it was crazy. Like, my mom got ravaged by credit card debt. And I've always been so fearful of debt. And so I'd always bought everything in cash. Like, I'd bought my car. I bought my house. But before I'd gotten fired, like, I had a bunch of things that had just like come. I paid my wife's student loans off. And before, like, I'd gotten terminated, I had to replace my roof on my house. I had to replace our HVAC, and it had literally just crushed my bank account. Like, I had,
your savings went kaput.
A couple $1,000s in there and got terminated, and was like, oh, wow. And I remember the feeling of, I just went we had rented this little downtown office because I didn't want to, like, pack my house full of all this, crap we were selling on Amazon. And I, like, just cried for hours and was just terrified. But I was thinking about it, and I was like, it's working. Like, at the end of the day, it's working.
And now look at all the time you can dedicate to it.
Right. So, but still I was
It's
so
scary.
like so ashamed that I'd been fired. Like, I went home and I was talking to my wife and I told her I'd quit. And I was really excited about this Amazon thing. Like I was feigning that like
Mhm.
mega
And she looked at you
confidence.
and went,
And she was like, yeah, you should really just go get your job back. And it,
Mhm.
you know, it hurt so much because I couldn't.
right.
And I was like, no, we got this. Like, it's
Mhm.
really not a big
Mhm.
deal. And, you know, for the next year, I mean, it was, if there was hours in the day we were working,
Mhm.
I mean, it was out shopping in
Mhm.
stores, for, you know, 5 and 6 days at a time.
Mhm.
Like we would just, because in Kentucky, you know, there's not an abundance of stores. Like my
No.
closest,
So you're driving. Mhm.
right. Like my closest Target's an hour and 20 minutes.
Mhm.
And so we had to just drive to major cities, and we would
Mhm.
stay there for multiple days and
Mhm.
fill up a van and come back. And, you know, then we would take like a day and go spend with our daughters and
Mhm.
our families and come back and then just ship everything out and go do it again.
Mhm.
And that first year we ended up doing about $860,000 in sales
Mhm.
with really good margins.
Mhm.
Like like our profits were probably in the 200 to 250 range. So we had, you know, those 6-figure
Mhm.
salaries,
Mhm.
but
But you were killing yourself.
we were killing ourselves. And then it was, you know, that was like we were at the time we were just paying ourselves nothing.
Mhm.
Like we were reinvesting every dollar we
Right.
had back into our business. And so, you know, on the home front, it was tough because we were living on you know, much less than we had been used to.
Mhm.
And then, but the business was growing. And so me and Eric really decided we were going to push ourselves the next year even
Mhm.
harder. And we ended up, and this was the crazy part. And this is like kind of what led to our big change, I think, in terms of moving business models, because retail arbitrage is great. Like you can, I think anybody, like if anybody wants to make a few $1,000s, they could probably do it just going in stores and
Mhm.
shopping and selling stuff on Amazon. But you know, it was, for us, it wasn't trying to make a few $1,000s. It was
Mhm.
literally trying to provide a full-on living for our
Mhm.
families.
Right.
So like we ended up just killing ourselves even more than that next year.
Mhm.
And we did 940,000 in sales.
Wow.
And but it's like, you know, even all that extra effort was just this much extra
Mhm.
revenue.
Mhm.
And I remember it was on Thanksgiving. I was like sitting there and I was getting ready to leave because Thanksgiving's like the biggest shopping day of the year.
Right.
If you
Mhm.
do retail arbitrage,
Especially
you have to
online.
be out there.
Oh yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. Like, so, you know, for whenever Thanksgiving would come around, we would literally work and not like, we would rent multiple vehicles,
Mhm.
park them in strategic areas, and then go into stores and like buy out stores as
Mhm.
much as we
Right.
could.
Yeah. Those Black
And
Friday sales were made
yeah,
for you.
absolutely. And we would spend, you know, like 48 hours with
Mhm.
on the road, not sleeping in
Mhm.
stores. Like it was crazy. But I remember right before I left, like, you know, they're all getting ready to do the Thanksgiving dinner, and I was just like, gosh almighty, like can't even sit here
Right.
with my
Can't even
kids.
enjoy
Like,
it. Mhm.
and it was like whenever we were driving that night, usually it was crazy. Like the night the year before, like we were super hyped, like pumped up,
Mhm. Mhm.
excited to be out there. And, you know, it was like this time we were just talking about our families and how we
Mhm.
missed them.
Right.
And, that was where we decided we were going to like try other models, and we like tried a whole bunch of stuff and failed.
Mhm.
Like the first thing we tried was we tried a brick and mortar store.
Hmm.
We put a brick and mortar toy store because that was kind of like our thing, our
Mhm.
specialty. And, you know, what we didn't think about is the fact that Corbin has about 7,000 people, and, you know,
Only so many toys need to be bought. Mhm.
specialty toy store probably not going to be very
Mhm.
successful. And we didn't, you know, we were still more invested into the online side. So
Mhm.
we probably didn't put in all the little extra that makes those
Mhm.
stores successful. Um, but it was like a learning experience, and we
Mhm.
ended up selling that store. And then we started a website that sold My Little Pony collectibles.
Hmm.
And it was because we had watched a documentary about bronies,
Mhm.
which are like, you know, older guys who are into My Little Pony and like collect
Okay.
and stuff. It's interesting. We'll say it's interesting.
See, and I was thinking it was because you had daughters, but
Well, that's how we originally started selling. Like, it was
Right.
crazy. So, we would always like scan things that our daughters would be playing with. And like, sometimes you would find really good items,
Right.
but sometimes My Little Pony items, like you'd see the, the little horse and the thing. And, sometimes they would sell for like $30, $40, $50. And
Right.
they're like,
And clearly
there's
that's
no
not for a
child.
6-year-old.
Exactly. So that's when we started doing research, and we found the documentary about it. And then we researched and found that they have tons and tons and tons of conventions and all kinds of stuff. So we started a website that sold My Little Pony collectibles and cards and stuff like that. And it actually didn't do bad. Like, we ended up selling that one too. And, I think we made a little bit of money, but not much. But it was still just that experience. And but it was dejecting too, because it's like we're looking for the other ways to generate money, so we don't have to kill ourselves and can have that freedom that we actually want. And then we started with another model called private label on Amazon. And that is, looking at that would be taking a product like Post-its and making your own version of it and packaging and brand and then selling it. And our first product did incredibly well. Like, we absolutely crushed it. Like, in about a 3-month period, we made like a generic case for Shopkins. And we called it the
you
Shopkeeper.
are in Kentucky.
Right. Like, we called it, and this was right about the time that Shopkins went crazy. And we called it the Shopkeeper, and they didn't have an official case or anything. And while, we couldn't claim Shopkins, like, we had built our listing around the back end terms and all kinds of cool stuff. And that thing sold like gangbusters. I mean, I remember we made about probably $200,000 or $225,000 or something like that in about 3 months in terms of just profit from that one item. And but like, every single time we tried to replicate it after that, like, we were just not successful. Like, we would lose money, and it was just like, okay. So the problem with the private label model for us was I just didn't feel like we had the skills to do it consistently. Like, we could occasionally hit that home run, but I don't think you can build a business on occasionally hitting home runs. I think you have to build a business on singles and just playing, good fundamental, or just having a good fundamental performing business. So it was kind of, while we did enjoy like the success that we had with the one product, it just didn't kind of hit that spot for us. And the next model we had, we tried was wholesale, and that's that's ultimately what we do today. But even that one wasn't easy for us. Like, we whenever we got started, we just did everything. We didn't have a clue really what you did. Like, it was, we knew that you could buy things from suppliers and sell them. And we didn't really know how to talk. Like, we didn't really know how to find the suppliers or anything like that. So we did what everybody else does. Like, I imagine if I told you, Deb, hey, can you find some suppliers for stuff? You would probably go to Google, right? And that's exactly what we did. Well, there were at the time, like, all the information out there that we were finding was like, just find distributors and contact those distributors, and they'll send you their catalog and you can see what they carry and see what works. So we did that a whole bunch of times. And they send these like gigantic books of stuff, and we're sitting there like manually plugging things in, and it was a nightmare. And you would go through these, it would probably take 15 hours, 10 hours to go through their entire lines, and you might find 1 or 2 items where you make just nothing. And I was like, gosh, I'm like, what is the problem here? Maybe we have to just do this in person. And then we went to ASD, which is like one of the biggest trade shows. It's in Las Vegas. And gosh almighty, that was a disaster. Like, because, when we're there, we, like, our strength is not, like, I'm an introverted person. Like, I'm not going to, by nature, I'm pretty reserved and introverted.
So work in a room is pretty different.
Not me, right? Like, so that was the first part. And then the second component for us was, like, we didn't have a giant pile of money in the bank. Like, we just had what we had and needed to make it work. So before, whenever we were at home, like, I would research products and try to like do my due diligence. And at the show, everybody's just pushing you to place orders. And we ended up placing a few orders there, and they were just awful. Like, we get home, by the time the product shows up, we're already underwater and losing money. And it was like, it was just crushing at the time. Like, it was just, we can't make this work no matter how hard we try, kind of thing. And then I remember one of the connections that I had made there, I ended up buying, there was this product and it looked so good. And like, I was like, Eric, wait, I don't know if this is like, this is inconsistent, but we can crush it with this one. And I made the decision to buy it. And it was like, probably 3/4 of the money we had, because it was a closeout.
Ooh.
And you said ooh, and it was for a good reason. Like, so by the time we get this, it was absolutely a disaster.
Oh.
Like, and I was like, what happened? So I contacted them, and we thought we were buying it all. Like, we thought we were buying the full closeout, and we are just going to be able to sell it.
So you would be the exclusive, whatever
effectively,
it was.
correct. And he was like, yeah, you did buy all of ours, but we only had 20%.
Oh man. So 80% was still out there.
Yes. And, and they probably had better pricing than we did. So it was absolutely a disaster. Like, not only were we going to be able to sell, it was going to be a slow sell for us. Like, it was going to take forever to just kind of like jockey around to be able to sell them, but we were going to lose money the whole way. And we needed to recover funds quickly. Like, we had to. Right. And I remember I was thinking, this is it. Like, I've done it. Like, I've bankrupted us. And it was crazy. So like, I couldn't think of, I asked the vendor if they would take it back or work with us, and they couldn't. And I literally just thought we were going out of business. And I ended up working with, I just called liquidators, and I was just on the phone constantly, just trying to like come up with somebody, and nobody wanted to like buy it at a price that would give us any kind of reasonable return. Like, but I remember this one vendor, I was talking to him, and I was like, hey man, like, would you be interested in buying this? And he was like, no, not really. And I was like, what about trade me stuff? Would you just trade me other stuff? Because here's the problem. Like, I had one item that I had thousands and thousands and thousands of
that nobody was really wanting.
Right. And if I could trade that, I figured, like, he's not going to trade me the best items in the world. Right. But if he'll trade me, 50 of this, 50 of this, 50 of this, it was more manageable quantities that I could actually sell through. And we ended up doing that and working it out. And it probably, that it saved our business. But, all these failures was just like, it felt like nothing would work for us. It felt like we were literally just doomed to have to keep working just keep working our butts off. And that was the only way we were going to make money. But it like, there was a light bulb moment, and this is like where we really found our groove. And I remember talking to Eric, and I like, there's just like an arbitrary product on my desk, and I was like, man, like, the frustrating thing is like, we've done this whole song and dance. Like, we call these distributors, we go to shows, we bought that big closeout that almost killed us, and nothing. And I was like, you know what I want, man? I just want to carry this one product, like this one. I don't want to have to go find it through a catalog. Like, I just want to carry this product. And Eric was like, well, let's just call the manufacturer or call the brand and see where.
Let's call them direct.
Right. And see where we could buy this thing. And, everything we had read just said, go to your distributors. Every single thing. We had never thought, just, and it seems common to be like that. But this was months into this process that we found this little thing. So we called the brand, and we were like, we'd love to buy your guys' product. Do you know who carries it, or how we could how we could get it? And they were like, well, we could just sell to you directly. And I was like, oh, really?
They don't care. They just want to sell it.
Sure. And then, so I asked them what their minimum order is, and here I'm expecting going to be $30,000 or $40,000, like some arbitrarily large amount of money. And they were like, $250 is our minimum order for wholesale pricing. And I was like, wow, really? So they sent over their price list, and I saw like they had a discount at $1,000 too. And we ended up placing about $1,000 order, with that first product.
Right. Just
and
to
it
test
went
it out.
swimmingly well, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like it went swimmingly well.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just like, oh my gosh, like all we have to do is call people. Like now we need to do is just find all the brands that we want to work with.
Right.
And so we were, that was that kind of little, that put us off to the races and gave us, that little bit of momentum bump that we needed. And it didn't go perfectly. Like we found other obstacles. And, one of our biggest ones was that a lot of vendors, like we would reach out to them and they would tell us like, we already have enough Amazon sellers. We're not really looking for anybody right now. And, I just like, and then you would ring, and you'd hear it again. It's like, all these products that I want to carry. And I remember one day, it's like, it's still at the time we didn't have, just like a huge amount of money. Like I wasn't going to be out ordering anybody. I wasn't going to be blowing their socks off how big my orders were. So I called this one brand I'd emailed them, and they were like, hey man, we're not taking any other Amazon sellers, but this particular product, like I knew it, like, it was something that I personally used and actually liked it. And I was like, you know what, I'm just going to call them, like maybe, whatever. So I call and I talked to the regional sales guy, and it was kind of funny. At first he was obviously irritated that I didn't take the hint from his email. Like I remember I was like, hey man, this is Dan. I'd sent you an email over about carrying your guys' products, and you'd mentioned that you weren't looking for any other Amazon sellers. And he was like, yep, and I meant it.
Yeah.
And I was like, no,
I need to email it to you again?
Right. Like, it was just, and I was like, and I was like, no, I definitely understand. And he was like, for what it's worth, man, we have 3 Amazon sellers currently, and they are the best Amazon, they're the 3 of the biggest Amazon sellers there are. So I don't feel like we need any other support. Right. And at the time, it was E-Tails, River Colony Trading, and somebody else, some other giant that does $100+ million a year. And I remember I was looking at this product, and I was like, here's the thing, Bob, like, you're right. Like those guys have all the resources in the world, and they can probably do anything they want for any of the brands that they work with. But I can tell you one thing, they're not doing it for you. Like I can go to your listing, and if you want to just take 5 minutes with me, you can probably reach out to them, and they'll get this stuff done for you, and it'll immediately help your brand and improve your sales. And I was like, just go over to your page, and I get him on his page, and he looks and he has like one picture, and he has, just a couple of sparse bullets and stuff like that. And I was like, all right. I was like, I actually use your product, man. And like, I know your biggest competitor is this. And so you care to go look at their page, and he goes and it's full crazy pictures and great descriptions and all that stuff. And I was like, here's the thing. Like if you were a customer coming to this page, which one would you choose? Right. Not knowing your brand. And he was like, I would choose my competitor. And I was like, so
even if the competitor costs more, probably.
Right. And I was like, so like, you're right. You do have the best Amazon sellers, but to them, you're just a number, man. Like these guys deal with thousands of people. Like you work with a rep, and he's, I'm sure he does a great job, but he's overworked. Like he's, stretched thin.
Right. He's got 100 products that he's dealing with.
And I was like, so, the difference is like, you're mine. Like I only work with one brand right now, but you can take this and you can ask them to do it for you. And, I'm sure they'll get it done, but just remember that every time this comes up, you're going to have to ask for it.
Right.
Like it's going to be on you to understand.
Yeah. Cause that's just how they do business.
Right. Like you're going to have to realize that there's a problem. And then you're going to have to do that, to reach out to them. And maybe they take care of it, maybe they don't. But I can guarantee you, if you work with me, that I'll take care of it every single time. And you won't have to call me and tell me about it. I'll take care of it before you ask. Like if you want to work with me on just one order right here, I'll do all this stuff for you today. And he was like, you know what, man, like, I really do appreciate this. And he actually started working with me despite the fact that I had one account and all of his other sellers did north of $100 million per year. And that was the most valuable lesson that I think I've learned is, if you look back at that particular conversation I had with that vendor, it wasn't very good. It was rocky and we were bouncing around and I was super nervous. And, but I did one thing, and it was, I found a way to actually help this guy other than with my wallet.
Right.
And that was what he appreciated, was he appreciated the fact that, it wasn't just me trying to place an order.
Mhm.
It was, I legitimately I want to grow together. And that was the mentality that we started taking forward.
Mhm.
So like our business model now is we work directly with brands.
Mhm.
Um, and instead of trying to, knock their socks off, like I don't want to work with Nike. I have no interest in it. I have
Mhm.
no interest in working with, Sony, Apple,
Mhm.
these mega brands,
Right.
because it's not a person, I can't have a
Mhm.
personal connection with them.
No, because they're too big.
Right.
Mhm.
But what we learned is, particularly with these small brands, with
Mhm.
the smaller brands, your more mom and pop style
Mhm.
stuff, that you can develop a real connection. And
Mhm.
in, these changes that I make on Amazon, like it may change their sales $250,000 in the course
Mhm.
of a year,
Right.
which to Nike, that's nothing. Like
Yeah,
that doesn't
that's an ad buy for half a day. You know?
exactly.
Mhm.
But to these smaller businesses, and this is what we've seen time and time again, is it means a world of difference.
Mhm.
Like that's employees they're able to hire.
Right.
That's growth, or new projects they're able to
Mhm.
take on to start growing their business.
Mhm.
And that was the part that not only did it work, that I find a lot of satisfaction from the
Mhm.
fact that it worked. Like, because people respond to you trying to help them. It
Mhm.
just naturally,
Right.
so it does
Mhm.
work.
Mhm.
Whenever we reach out to vendors, like I contact a vendor, I do my best to do homework, and
Mhm.
I talk to them about the specific challenges they face,
Mhm.
how I can help them.
Mhm.
And that's my sales process. I
Mhm.
don't, I'm not like, uh, used car salesman trying to
Right. Right.
talk them into
Mhm.
doing business. I
Mhm.
just try to educate.
Mhm.
And, so I got the satisfaction from it working, but more importantly, like I get communication like from all my vendors that tell
Mhm.
me how well we're doing and how
Mhm.
it's changing their business. So it's being able to make an impact there as
Mhm.
well
Right. You
is
become a
huge.
partner with them.
Exactly.
Mhm.
And it's actually funny that's what we don't like to be a seller. We like to be a
Mhm.
partner.
Right.
And that's kind of the mentality we created.
Mhm.
And then the wholesale formula. So that's kind of the nuts and bolts story of our
Mhm.
Amazon business. But
Mhm.
the wholesale formula got started in 2015.
Mhm.
And that's our training course that
Mhm.
teaches people how to create a business using the same model that
Mhm.
we actually use. And it was funny. One of my buddies was in town, and he came by our warehouse, and he's a digital marketer. Like
Mhm.
he has a great story too. How he was a teacher, and then him and his wife were both teachers, and they actually left their jobs to become digital marketers and
Mhm.
did really, really well. Um, but he was in our warehouse, and I remember um, that he was looking there, and he was like, "Man, like you should teach people how to do this."
Mhm.
And I was like, who would want to know how to like run a grimy warehouse? Because at the time, we still had
Mhm.
our warehouse, and
Right.
now we don't. And it's
Mhm.
a lot more, it's a lot more fulfilling for me
Mhm.
now that we
Mhm.
don't have to see products and be in that kind of like
Mhm.
more, uh, and that wasn't the environment I actually
Mhm.
wanted to be in either. But I was like, who would want to know how to do this? And he was like,
Mhm.
I promise, man, like crazy amounts of people
Mhm.
would be interested. So we ended up just reading a book about how to put together a course.
Mhm.
And it was the product launch formula book that by Jeff Walker.
Mhm.
And we put together our course, and it was kind of funny because I remember that night whenever we went to launch, and our cart opened, and I was like, man, if we sell one, we got to drink, we got to crack a bottle of champagne. And if we sell 5, we got to make it a bottle of Cristal, just because it's an
Ooh. Mhm.
ultimate success, right?
Right.
Like
Right.
that was our
Mhm.
barrier for success.
Mhm.
So like we hit the button, and the sales page goes live
Mhm.
and crashes because there was so
Oh,
much traffic headed there. the
nice.
Yeah, so we ended up crushing that within
Mhm.
the first hour. We had sold
Mhm.
40 or 50, and
Mhm.
I think at that launch we ended up maybe having 120 to
Mhm.
150 people that ended up buying our course.
Wow.
And so
So it's an online course, I'm assuming.
yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
Mhm.
And it was it's just it was kind of crazy because we didn't actually think it would work. I
Mhm.
mean, and then the course is real, and people are going through, and they ask questions, and we
Mhm.
would answer them inside of our community, and
Mhm.
like just that kind of crazy
Mhm.
fun atmosphere. And I remember like it was like we got really close to particularly
Mhm.
everybody, because it was such a small group, and this is the very first time we'd
Mhm.
ever done anything like this too. And we saw that there was a lot of chatter about going to ASD, and it was kind of funny because, our experience at the previous ASD
like,
was a nightmare.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, we should just go though and just hang out. Like if nothing else, just go meet the people.
Right.
And it was like at that, we scheduled a dinner there, and we just went to dinner with everybody that showed up. And there was this one lady that was there. Her name was Cheryl. And I remember just like, it was like, this is what made it like, it started to make it beyond just, associating a Facebook profile with something. And she like asked me she was asking me all these questions, and I would always see her post in the group and stuff. And she was a really smart lady, but she just didn't have any confidence. Like that was her thing and so she was like, I just don't know how I can be successful. Like I try to do everything the way it is. And I was like, the difference is you don't believe you can do it. Like when you call people, they hear it.
Right. There's
like,
that little hesitation.
Right. And they don't believe that you can help them because you don't believe it.
Right.
And if you can solve that, you can do this. So she went home, and she said she like decided one day that she was just going to go all out, do her best to help the people and figure it out afterwards. Right. And so she did, and she ends up getting an account, and that account now makes her over $300,000 in profit a year, that one account. And I remember, so I go to the next conference because a lot of our people were going there, and she like runs up to me, and she was crying. And then she like told me her backstory, and it was just like crazy. It was really impressive. Is she was this lady had worked for this like event planning company for years, and was an executive there. And then had gotten laid off from her job, and just went through some horrible struggles, and had moved back in with her mother. And, this was the last resort she had. Like she, it was literally last resort. And I remember just thinking like, wow, like, that's the impact we can have.
Right.
And that's where, and then it became a lot more about like focusing building our Amazon business around, we had a lot of systems and things like that, and we had working less hours, but our goal was to work no hours so we could really invest into helping other people. And, so that was where we really, really focused on putting a lot of those SOPs and processes in place, and have scaled like, down to honestly like an hour a week is we have a weekly meeting where our team, I say our team, and this is the level you can run a really successful Amazon business. Like we have two domestic employees and 2 international virtual assistants. And that's our entire Amazon operation. That's multiple millions of dollars. And kind of inside of a little downtown office. But that's our interaction is once a week, our team comes and talks about, some of the challenges they're having or ideas they have. And we guide that kind of overall strategy, but on a day-to-day process, like we have literally no role in implementation.
And so that really makes me wonder, Dan, it's like, okay, so what do you do? And now, of course, the big thing is you have lots of, free time to spend with your family. That was the whole goal of it. But from the business perspective, what do you do? How do you figure out what's going to be a new product?
Sure.
I'm just so perplexed.
No, for us, it is, we use kind of like 3 little simple criteria that determine if a product is a possible lead for us. And it is, number 1, that it's not carried by Amazon. Like, if Amazon is the seller of a product, we don't want to carry it. And there's a couple different reasons. It's number 1, Amazon's they're hard to find, particularly.
Right. Because they bump up the price
they'll fight you all the way down. Like it's crazy. And then they're hyper competitive. But the other problem is whenever Amazon is a seller on a page, it makes it very hard to make changes to those pages. Like you have to get different kinds of authorizations. And it makes our ability to help the brand almost nothing. So, or it makes it very, very difficult at the least for us to be able to help them. So in those instances, like, used to, we would set up accounts and just try to sell products. But now our role is really, if we can't help people, we try not to work with them, because there's no, there's nothing that's going to create that connection. And I don't want to be just another buyer of products.
Right.
So that's the first one, is that the product is not carried by Amazon. The second one is that it's carried by at least three sellers. And that sounds like counterintuitive. Most people would be like, want to be the only seller. But the problem is that a lot of those single seller products are either existing exclusives or private label products. And private label products were developed so they could be the retailer. So we don't really align, and we can't really, we're not going to help them a whole lot in that mission. So again, we try not to work with people we can't help. And then the last criteria is that the product has an established selling history.
So you're not going to sell pet rocks or those
I might sell pet rocks
things.
It's crazy. It's crazy, like the amount of crazy things that actually just sell particularly well on Amazon. No, we just don't do a lot of like I don't make listings on Amazon and try to create the sales velocity. Like what we do is we like to look at products that are already selling well, and because when you think
there's
about
a market for it already.
Exactly. And there's a floor. Like if I invest in this product and it's, it's doing, let's say it's doing, $5,000 a month in sales, that specific product. And it's been doing that for 2 or 3 months, 5 months, 6 months. Well, it's probably going to do at least $5,000 in sales the next month. So I can bank on that, right? Like I can assume that I'm not going to just invest my money into a dead product. Now, any changes I make that raise that are just a strict benefit, right? So, I mean, we don't like to have products just sitting there, and I don't like to launch products unless I'm doing it as a favor or to help one of the brands that we're working with, because we come from that cash trap mentality. Like we've always had, we've never had the just giant pile of cash to invest in products and let them sit.
Right.
We want our money to be turning over so we can reinvest and continue to make progress.
Right. Yeah. And that's the key, is that it is just kind of a continual type of momentum.
Sure.
And because you don't want products that are just sitting, whether it's, that you're fulfilling it yourself or that you've got it in, one of Amazon's facilities, because that's just a waste.
That's dead money.
Yeah. And so you're just thinking, okay, well, what are we going to turn? But that brings me to some more questions. So, you're selling through Amazon. How, and clearly their business model is that they get the money, that's where that is.
Sure.
So then how quickly do you get the money?
Sure. Okay. So Amazon has automated payments set every 2 weeks.
Oh.
And it's just an ACH payment to your bank account. So whenever you're selling your products on Amazon, you ship it in. It depends where you're in that cycle, but every 2 weeks they just, whatever you've sold minus the fees that they take, they go ahead and ship it to you via that ACH.
Cool. So every 2 weeks, that's not bad. Because I'm sure a lot of people were thinking, yeah, right, they pay every month, every 6 months, and all of those. And of course they can't do that. It'd be nice if they could keep that money. But they know that to keep people as their third-party sellers, they have to treat them well, which means paying them quickly, and doing all of those various things. Now, how do you handle inventory? How do you know what's where and when you need to order more?
Oh, wow. Yeah. So, we just use before, it would be us just manually trying to keep track of everything.
Right. We got 10 of this. We sold 9 of that. We probably should order more.
Probably should order some. No, we use just an inventory planning software that monitors our stock levels, looks at our sales volume over the past 30 days and projects our next orders. So it'll say, you need to order this pile of stuff. And then our employees go through and make sure that the computer didn't do something crazy and just place the orders. Right.
Now, do you figure out, okay, we need a bunch more in, say, Europe or, out in Las Vegas? I mean, do you have to figure all that out, or does Amazon figure out, okay, this is where we're going to distribute the inventory?
Sure. No, we, for what it's worth, we are 100% domestic too. Like we don't,
oh, okay.
We don't sell. It was crazy. We were actually getting ready to start selling into the UK because that market's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And all, a lot of the Amazon markets are just amazing to be in. It's just, there's so much opportunity
Right.
for us here.
Mm-hmm.
But we were getting ready to ship our first shipment in. We had gotten everything set up, and Brexit happened the day our shipment was going out. And we were like, no.
Stop.
Like, we're not doing any of this.
Mm-hmm.
We'll wait and see how this shakes out. And then we just kind of really hadn't got started again doing it.
Because that whole situation is still just, what the heck's going on?
But as far as the, who determines where product goes,
Mm-hmm.
it's like Amazon will, like, let's say I tell Amazon I have 100 of these headphones or whatever
Mm-hmm.
that I'm sending in. They'll tell me to send, 60 to this warehouse,
Mm-hmm.
30 here and 10 here or something
Mm-hmm.
like that. And that's all you have to do is you have to pack those boxes full
Mm-hmm.
of those items and then ship them out. Like, you don't have to handle them individually.
Right. Well, and of course, when you're buying direct from the manufacturer, you tell them ship 60 here, 40 here.
Exactly. Right. Like, I don't
mm-hmm.
ship 60 and
Right.
40. Our manufacturers will do that.
Mm-hmm. Right. And that's easy for them. I mean, that's what they're used to doing anyway, because they're used to sending to distributors. So for them to just send, the same product multiple places, that's not a problem at all.
Right.
And I think maybe a lot of people don't realize that Amazon has all of these different locations. We're finally learning it as they're bidding on new locations, and people are like, oh, pick us, put your facility here. There's a reason they can deliver to you in an hour, folks. It's because
Right.
they're just down the street. And so it's now granted, some places it is going to take a little bit longer because it's more remote, but they're still pretty good. If you're a Prime member, they're not going to say, oh, sorry, Montana, you don't count. But yeah, I mean, they just do that. And then of course, with all the technology, the drones and all of those things. I mean, it's fascinating to watch Amazon and see what they're doing. I think one of the latest things that came out in the news this week was that they're looking at fleets of the electric vehicles, all of those various things. And because it makes sense for them to be good, corporate citizens, but it's also the wave of the future, and so why not jump on it early? And of course they have the money where they can say, okay, we're going to buy 1,000 of these, whereas
Sure.
Somebody else says, okay, I can buy 2 trucks.
Right. But that's the thing is, if you look at how Amazon operates, they
Mm-hmm.
are very far ahead
Mm-hmm.
in terms of technology experimentation and things like that. And
Mm-hmm.
they are trying to constantly revolutionize e-commerce.
Right.
Like, it wasn't very long ago that there was somebody that was talking to Jeff Bezos,
Mm-hmm.
and had they had mentioned, how do you feel about how Amazon, like something about Amazon's performance, and he was like, well, obviously we're doing great, but it's still just the first inning for us.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Right.
that's their view, as this
Mhm.
is, this is the early stage of
Mhm.
e-commerce,
Mhm.
and they're so, they're already thinking about
Mhm.
advanced delivery like drones and all the
Mhm.
other, crazy things,
Mhm.
because they're hyper focused on providing the best
Mhm.
value to the consumer. And that's why the marketplace will continue to grow.
Right.
Is like, people who think Amazon, is going away, or has, like, is not steady, as
Mhm.
they were the first $1 trillion company.
Mhm.
They were the first company to hit that $1 trillion
Oh,
valuation.
yeah.
Like, they are, not going away. They are
Mhm.
continuing to just blaze the
Mhm.
trail in terms of e-commerce.
Right. Well, they figured out that people want convenience.
Yep.
I want to be able to order something at 1:00 in the morning and have it arrive tomorrow, or, maybe even later in the week, depending on what it is. And I love mom and pop shops, and I love going into those, but it doesn't always work.
Nope.
And especially for, items that aren't specialty items. I think, specialty items, you still want to go in, you want to touch them, you want to see them, all those various things. But, the things that you buy in bulk, or, all, that I don't have any of the Amazon buttons, but, you get down to where you don't have a lot of detergent, and It just automatically orders it for you. How convenient is that?
Well, not just that, it's their selection too. It's like,
right.
you go into a lot of small shops and you don't find exactly what you want or something like that. There's no way you can not find what
Right.
you want on Amazon.
Oh,
Like
yeah,
they carry
yeah.
everything.
Mhm.
So
And even when you're going into the huge box retailers, there's still frequently, much more selection on Amazon. And, and it's easy. I mean, I have 2 things right now that I need to box up to return because, both of them didn't work. Okay, I just go online to Amazon. I say this didn't work, and I get the replacement, and I get the thing to go to
Yep.
Kohl's. Holy schmoly, did that ever simplify my life? Because there's a Kohl's down the street, and I return it, and that is what we're saying. Amazon is so forward thinking that it's difficult to say I'm not going to do business with them, and so that is, of course, the purpose of the program today, is to convince people to even think about it,
Right.
and whether it's a side hustle or it turns into this is what you do for a living, it is definitely something to be considering.
Exactly. You said it. If it's just hearing about it and doing, 5 minutes worth of research because you thought this was interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the conversation that Andrew had with me years and years ago that got that pulled me into Amazon. Was like, yeah, that doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
And then he's like, no, seriously, it does. You should try it out. And but it's just hearing about something that sparks an interest, and maybe this connects with one of your listeners.
Mm-hmm. Right. Oh my gosh, we are at the top of the hour. This has been so much fun. And of course, what happens is I still have all these questions. So, I will definitely have to have you on again, and especially because Amazon is ever changing.
Sure.
And you never know. There might be something that comes along that replaces it, or, and so then we'll have to talk about that. So we'll definitely have you on again. But in the meantime, Dan, how do people find you and connect with you and get your information?
Sure. First off, they could go to our Facebook page. It's facebook.com/the wholesale formula. Or they can go check out our website at thewholesaleformula.com. And I had a link especially for you, but I don't remember what it is off the top of my head.
Well, email it to me. We'll make sure
I'll email it to you. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
But it's, I have a link especially for your audience, and I thought I had it on this notepad.
That's all right. That's all right. We'll be able to add it to the notes.
But yeah, so what that is it's 100% free, and it is just kind of like a downloadable guide that's a 30,000 foot overview of our business, where people can look at it and just understand kind of the components of how it operates. But that's our goal. Honestly, that's our goal. Is we just want to Amazon change, Amazon and the ability to create a business changed my life so much, and so fun, like, fundamentally that I just love being able to talk about it, and being able to share that same kind of mentality, that mindset, and open people's eyes to the possibilities.
Right. And of course, because Amazon is Amazon, nobody's really a competitor. I mean, there's enough for everybody is maybe the easiest way to say that. So,
no, I mean, exactly. And that's it's crazy because originally we had that slightly more less abundance, less of an abundance mindset. I guess get more of a scarcity mindset. And I remember whenever we launched our course, we were like, do you think this is like really going to hurt our sales? Like, and we didn't think so. Right. Like we didn't think so, but after we did, like, what it did is actually just increased our sales massively. And that was because we were working with all these new business owners that have new cool ideas that we get to test. And, that's what helped evolve our business. So there's lots of room out there for everybody.
Cool. I love it. Well, is there any final words you want to leave everyone with?
No, I would just tell people to, regardless of what business model you want to jump into or something, that the first step is the hardest step, but it's also the one that can change your life. So, if you're passionate about something, or if you want to make a change in your life, get started today and actually just do it.
Perfect. I love it. Well, Dan, we will definitely have you on again. And until then, they can find information from you on thewholesaleformula.com. I am Deb Creer. I've been having a great time talking with Dan Meadors. And until next time, everyone have a great day.
Thanks for listening to the Business Power Hour, hosted by Deb Creer. Join us next time for more real-life stories and techniques to power up your business.
You've been listening to C-Suite Radio. For more top business podcasts, visit c-suiteradio.com.